Welcome back to The Narrative. I'm your storyteller, Callistra Farrier. The seamoss industry in the Caribbean is getting some attention. In fact, the region has a budding seamoss industry, particularly St. Lucia. They are credited as being the largest producer. Grenada not too far behind and now beginning to get into actual seamoss cultivation. And it's a game for young people and women in the Caribbean. The Food and Agriculture Organization, working along with the government of Dominica. In fact, there's a big program there that's being tied in to the CARICOM's agenda of decreasing the food importation bill in the CARICOM by 25% in 2025. And that is part of many activities that's happening in terms of strengthening the seamoss industry, the cultivation, and best practices for that. Now, in Grenada, there are a number of people who are actually cultivating seamoss, and one of them is joining me now on the narrative. Andre Thomas. He's growing the moss, which is also known as Irish moss, and it's used to make it's famous in the Caribbean for making drinks, but you can make so many other things with it, including medicinal products. And I've discovered toothpaste. Andre, welcome to the program.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, good. Good to have you on. Good to have you on. And before, thank you very much for my little package of red sea moss. I'm
Yeah,
gonna be
red,
fixing that up
purple.
soon.
Mm-hmm. I hope so.
And you know, one of the things I did not know, because you see sea moss around Grenada all the time, people sell it, you see it dried in the banks. One thing I did not know was that you have different colors. You have green, you have red, you have
Mm-hmm.
the gold or the sort of beige one that we know here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the blue, which St. Lucia is actually cultivating. And
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize that you had such a wide range of it. Is it, as a CMOS cultivator, how many different colors are you doing?
Well, I've only managed to get hold of the purple, which is what you've got, and green. The blue is the one that I would like to import from St. Lucia. But the only challenge with that is it has to be done in a timely fashion because then it has to be put into the water so we can settle and then start to grow. But it's only two colors that we've managed to do at the moment. The beige one that you see prevalent in town, which is the ones that a lot of people grew up on, the stringy beige ones, it's a process that they do to have it like that. It doesn't actually come out of the sea like that. The natural colors, as I said, would be the green, the purple, and the blue. But it's how you process it to get it to that point. So that's really the difference with that. But the blue is definitely something that we're trying to get. And I haven't actually physically seen it yet. Heard about it, seen a picture, but it's how you get it to that stage. Because you can take any sea moss out of the sea, but once you put it in a different environment with the sun and it's just how you process it would dictate how it comes out. So that's pretty much
So,
that.
so, so, so to get it purple or the sort of reddish hue that it has, you follow one particular type of processing.
Well,
And
me
likewise
personally,
for the blue or the green. Because I thought they all came out of the sea sort of um, uh, just off-white, sort of.
it does come out a kind of beigey, kind of off-white color. And as I said, it's about how you process it. So what you would naturally do would be to sweat it. I would sweat mine, put it in a dark environment and sweat it overnight, and then afterwards, then we give it a sunburst, which is what really gives it its energy. It has to get that sun for it to be able to retain that. But if you, for example, you take it out and you wash it too much and you put it in too much water, what it does is it fades the color. So by the time you do dry it, it doesn't give it that rich red like what I've given you there. So it is a process to how to do it.
No, as I was saying, as I introduced you onto the program, the Food and Agriculture Organization, they are working with Dominica. They've got this whole program where they're dealing with the cultivation. I think Dominica has a particular species. They're trying to grow a different one there. But one of the things you told me was that CMOS does not, it has to get accustomed, like most living organisms, it has to get accustomed to its environment
Mm,
before it can
yeah.
flourish and bud. So I think that they're trying to get something going on there with a different species in Dominica. The name is so long, I'm not even going to attempt to say it on air. Um, in Grenada, are we getting any technical support as a cultivator, as a seamoss cultivator? Is this all
The,
self-taught, or are you getting backing, for instance, from our Ministry of Agriculture?
well, personally, I mean, I'm not getting any backing. I'm self-taught in that sense. And strangely enough, I learned it from a young guy in Woburn named Dwayne. He's the one that fascinated me with it, and I started being around him to see the process. And going back to what you were saying about it being environmental. Now, for example, when I took plants from him in Woburn, I then started. I think it was around 2020, just before the COVID, around the COVID time. I took mine and I went to Calais. It took me maybe 3 weeks to a month to really make the sea moss catch. Not saying that it wasn't growing, it was growing, but then what it would do, it would like have a fungus in between the strands, and then that's what would, whenever we do get any waves or any bad weather, it would break off easy. And hence the reason why you see a lot of people see moss on the side of the beach, and that's one of the reasons as well. But definitely that's what happened to me, and that's what made me realize that what the different particles in the water, the environment definitely has something to do with it, because that organic sea moss, it's alive, so it soaks in its environment, which is in so that's the problem that I had. And when I noticed that, I had to keep planting it, replanting it. So it took me a few weeks, well, and then when it settled, then it flourished. So that was the experience I had with that. But it definitely is a product of its environment, wherever the water is. So, for example, you've got places like Indonesia and stuff like that are doing hectares of sea moss. But Indonesia and certain of these places, even Jamaica and certain of these places, a lot of these places are industrial. So the quality of water will dictate the quality of your sea moss. And the beauty of Grenada is, just like our nutmeg and our cocoa, we've got very organic environment. Our environment is not polluted. I mean, you can go certain parts, like certain areas, where you might get one or two hotels where you don't know what they're sending out in the sea. And there is a difference, because I did go to the Ministry of Health, and I went and I got some parts of the water checked, so we can tell the difference. But ordinarily, all of our water is relatively clean, and that really would dictate a lot of things. But definitely, the environment definitely plays a great part in the quality of the CMOS that you're getting.
So our seamoss is of a high quality because
Very high
our
quality, yeah.
water is relatively unpolluted compared to other areas where you have heavy industrialization.
Definitely, definitely, I can definitely say that. The only one problem that we had, and this is what that we noticed in Wuhan, for example. We've got a lot of these yachties that's coming here, and they're dumping their particles in the sea. So that's
They're
one thing that you have to
dumping their
bear in mind
fecal matter into our pristine waters.
into our pristine water. And if you go Woburn, for example, that you could see the amount of yachts that's out there, and there is one or two people that's growing sea moss in the area. And this is one of the problems that me and Dwayne were discussing. We even had not an argument, but sort of like a discussion with a few of them that were really close to the shore. And and back in them times, I think it was Nicholas Steele that was dealing with that aspects of it, and they weren't really interested in sort of structuralizing the yachties, and organizing where they're dumping their feces and such and such. Now I think that they're paying more mind to it. There is a few people that I know that actually got what we call, feces boats that they are going out and collecting it with them. But that's our only problem. But we don't have the yachties all over the island per se. So there's lots of really clean, healthy areas. But that's the only obstacle that we would incur, is because I think around the hurricane season is when they really come in, and they sneak in and they plot, and then because I sit there and I watch them and I wonder, how do you get rid of your stuff? But it goes straight into our water. So yeah, yeah,
I, I,
it's not
I
nice.
watch I watched those anchored outside of Grand Anse and outside of the
Mhm.
of Port St. George and that area there, and I wonder as well. I wonder.
Yep. So that's something that we definitely have to look into because it's not just sea moss; it's seaweed. There's a lots of other different
Yeah,
aspects of the sea that we could
the
tap into.
sargassum seaweed, which has been very troublesome in the Caribbean, and we're still struggling to find useful ways of utilizing it, as well as environmentally safe ways of getting it off our beaches. Does that
Mhm.
pose a threat to the cultivation of sea moss?
Strange enough, no, not really. It depends on where you are. So when I went up to Grenville, they really, have sections that are saturated with it. But because of how the sea moss grows, it grows underneath in the underneath this the sea. So it doesn't really the seaweed would actually go on top and then eventually make its way out. And then those places that the seaweed does concentrate, people don't really go grow sea moss there. So it's not really that much of a problem. I didn't really know it was a problem. I wouldn't say it was a problem. No, no.
No, from a technical standpoint,
Hmm.
would you like to see more involvement? Because if you are doing this on a serious level and you have not yet encountered any program or interest from the Ministry of Agriculture or any technical support, one would assume that it's either not available or
Hmm.
not sufficiently publicized, or the outreach is not effective enough to reach the people who
I
would
think
care about
it's
it.
the public they're not publicizing it enough because they do have the fisheries do have seminars for people who are cultivating because to be quite honest you're supposed to be registered and the people that are registered they do give them support whether it be technical support if the support is not really fully hands-on but they do get some technical support and they do get stuff that they can guidelines that they can actually go along and do it so I wouldn't say no but to be
So
quite
why are
honest
you not, why are you not engaging then?
um because I don't know I pretty much I've tried and error. When I started doing it around the COVID time, I learned a lot of stuff myself. Common sense kicks in. It's the stuff that happens that you can just pretty much work off of. So I didn't really need much help with it. Um, the only thing that I noticed was that they weren't really encouraging people to deal with their environment once they've taken the CMOS out of the sea. And that's why I say to a lot of people, you have to be very careful where you're buying your CMOS from. Because the CMOS industry is people that are generally poor people that are going out, just like farmers that are going out and doing it, but they're looking for the quick buck. So where they're drying their CMOS and how they're processing their CMOS is questionable. Like, for example, they would, I see a few people were using galvanized. Now, galvanized,
Galvanize. Oh, okay,
yeah,
the roofing.
the roofing. We know that there's chemicals on that. Now, once the CMOS starts to soak, because it's a product of the environment, it soaks into the environment. It's not healthy and then you're consuming that. So that's not healthy. So it's just little practices like that. But obviously, people are looking for quick fix to get the quick buck. So that's the only thing. That's the only thing that I would say that they need to really keep an eye on. And the people that are registered to make sure that their environment is a proper environment. Because as I said, this is food. And if it's supposed to be a healthy, organic, holistic food, it has to be dealt with in that sense. Yeah. So yeah, there is help out there though.
In your research as a cultivator, did you come across information about how much is too much to take from the seabed when you're doing sea moss, or does it not matter because you're actually cultivating and it's separate from what grows naturally?
Okay, there's two different ways. Like for example, you were referring to St. Lucia. I think back in the 80s, they had a huge problem because a lot of people would say they wanted the wild crafted sea moss. Um, Back in St. Lucia, back in the days, they actually harvested the majority of it. Hence the reason why they came up with that idea of putting it on a rope and to cultivate it in a quicker fashion that we're doing it now. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I've
Are
kind of
we,
lost my train of thought.
but are we doing any, not a problem, are we doing any wild crafted cultivate, harvesting here in Grenada? Are we,
Strange enough, the only way it becomes wildcrafted is if, for example, someone like myself or cultivators like myself lose CMOS, and then the CMOS just goes into its own environment. Like it would just bust off and go off, and then it would just start its own thing. Hence the reason why you'll get a few people, well, the divers especially, because I've got a few people that I know are diving for the seamoss, and they're getting the seamoss. So there is a lot of wild seamoss out there, but you have to have the ability to go and dive for it. And if you don't have that ability, you wouldn't be able to really get it, you know? And you have to know where to get it as well. But people don't really explore in that sense too much. So it's not something that any and anybody can get hold of. But saying that, I've kind of discovered a way of doing it via the rope and actually be able to get that same wildcrafted experience. Because wildcrafted means that it's interacting with all of the other marine environment in the ground, which would be the rocks, you've got the grass, the sea eggs, and such and such. You see, Cali's, where I was doing it at first, they got a very shallow beach. You can literally walk out, and it just comes up to, when it's on a good day, it will just come up to your waist. And when you drop the sea moss right to the ground, like for example, one time I lost a lot of sea moss, and that was primarily because the sea down at Cali's was really, really bad. So I went there and then my whole plot was twisted. So I just put it all together and I left it. But what I done was I dropped it to the seabed. But when I dropped it to the seabed, I left it there for a while and it spread in a different kind of way. And I realized the quality and the thickness and everything was slightly different to when I done it normally. So there is ways of doing it while crafting and not necessarily having to die for it, you know? So,
So,
but you live
so,
and you
so, so
learn.
you're saying the deeper, when you're cultivating, the deeper you go, the better it is. You can get that wildcrafted feel to it
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
go
Depending
deeper.
on where you are, because if you just go out in the ocean and you put the sea moss out in the ocean and it's floating, you wouldn't really get that full experience. But if it's in a shallow bay and the sea moss is actually interacting with the sea grass, because I tell you what, once you put sea moss in any environment, like any of our bays, you'll start seeing the whole marine energy in the place changes. You'll get more sea eggs, you'll get more fish, lobsters. You'll get more lobsters because when I was growing mine down in Cali, I just kept bumping into these little baby lobsters, which was fascinating to me. Because coming from where I'm coming from, I'm not used to seeing that kind of straightforward natural stuff, you know. So so definitely.
And what about the export market? Are we exporting a lot? I know that there are some buyers, and it's a very, very
Mm-hmm.
popular. Everybody wants to get their CMOS because it has all kinds of properties and it's healthy. Are we exporting a lot?
Well, the average person isn't. One or two people who have have got connections outside are definitely taking advantage of that. There was a young guy up in St Andrews that he was cultivating about £3,000 a month. I know it sounds like a lot and it sounds like wow, how does he do it? But the way he was doing it, and it's how you grow it, how you plant it, to how long it would take before you could harvest it. So if you plant it as a baby, it will take 3 months. If you plant it as big strands, like as a lump, then it literally takes a month. And they had a system up there, and I think they still have the system up there. Um, that's up by the breakwater, St Andrews. Let me see what part of St Andrews. I think it's a breakwater project that they had up there. That they've got a nice, huge farm up there. So there is some people that are doing that, and you also get a lot of people that are buying it in bulk and doing their various other things with it. So yeah, you've got a few people that's exporting, but we can't produce enough. The whole Caribbean can't even produce enough because obviously this is a consumable product, so it constantly has to be replenished. So we still got a long, long, long way to go, and to get people who are not understanding of marketing and don't have those connections, we need to have a center. We need to have a place where, just like the marketing board and such before, where you can bring your produce. We need somewhere where people can feel confident they can bring their stuff and get get some decent money, because it's not easy to go out in that sea every day and to clean and to harvest and to pull it out, and then it takes time to dry it. It's a process. So they should be paid a little bit more than what they're being paid now. And there's no incentive for them. So I've even found a few friends of mine that were doing it before that they've come out of it because they're harvesting the sea moss and nobody's really buying it. So we've definitely got some ways to go in regards to that. You know,
Paid a fair price given the amount of work that goes into getting it to the customer. How much a pound is seamoss if you buy it from the cultivator or
if
the
you buy,
harvester?
you can buy two ways. Dry, I'm not too sure because personally, as a cultivator, I mean, I wouldn't buy dry sea moss from people because, as I said, hence the reason why I was saying to you before, how are they drying it and such. But when you buy it wet, you can you can get it for $3 a pound. You can get it for $2.50. You can get it for $2. It really depends on who you're dealing with. Yeah, so it's gauging from about sort of $1.25 to $3. You can buy it for. It depends on who you're buying it for, and depending on how much you're buying as well. The more you buy, the
And then
cheaper.
it sells upwards of $20 a pound. It's $25 a pound. Um, if you
Externally.
but dried.
Yeah. Because it's a process, Kalistra. It's not. It takes time. You have to have the environment for it, and it just takes time. It's not something you just get out of the sea and you put it there because you have to clean it. You have, and then afterwards, then you have to have the environment to dry it. So it takes a while. It takes a while. Like for example, the package that I gave you, from me taking it out in the sea till it gets into how it got to you, it would have taken me probably around sort of 8 to 9 days, and that is dependent as well whether or not we've got good weather. You know, if it's dry season, then it's perfect because obviously cultivating sea moss is also a seasonal thing because around hurricane season, people generally slow down because the seas are very rough from hurricane season onwards. So I'd say from sort of August, between August and January, the sea can be very temperamental. I mean, now it's strange because the weather it's unpredictable now. We don't know if it's dry season, rainy season. But ordinarily
I just bought
around.
umbrellas for my kids, and I was saying to them this morning, well, the rain stopped as soon as I bought the umbrellas. So it's a bit confusing, the weather, yeah.
Hmm hmm Yeah. So that's generally it, really. But we do have a bit of a way to go, and it's just like anything. It's new. A lot of people are getting into CMOS for the wrong reasons. They're just thinking if it's a quick buck. So whenever you think of anything as a quick buck, you never really get the best out of it. You always get hustlers. And once you get the hustlers, that's when you get the different temperaments and prices and people, a lot of misinformation about it and such, especially in Grenada, because as soon as you mention CMOS, oh, there's a lot of money in CMOS, but you have to get it to that stage and you then have to find the market for it to become like that. So, you live and you learn, and it's gonna take a while.
And you were still working out your products and work, seeking markets. You have not yet begun to consistently export.
No, I haven't started that. I'm looking to sort of line up different product bases with it, not just giving you the raw CMOS, because to be quite honest, that's a lot of our problems. Just like what I think it was Germany and Switzerland or wherever they were exporting the nutmeg and the cocoa too. They were piling it up, and that within itself becomes a problem because then they take the same products, they will do product development with it, and then send the same chocolate and same stuff back to us.
So
So
you're
for
looking
me,
here at the value chain and strengthening the value chain with the
that's
CMOS.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So we can get much more out of it and create products and create brands and sell it for what it is, a premium product. We have an opportunity to sell a premium product, CMOS, and separate ourselves from the rest of these places. Even, for example, St. Lucia. St. Lucia is much more industrialized than us in that sense. I think our CMOS is probably, going to be like here, St. Vincent, and all of these islands that are generally untouched and that are not, exploited. We have got premium CMOS, so we have to separate that. It's just like going in the shop and buying genetically modified fruits and then buying organic fruits. You pay a difference. There is a difference, and we have to respect that. But unfortunately, down here, they don't respect it. They just think that it's CMOS, it's CMOS. Anything is CMOS. No, once it's done properly, it has to give it its respect. That's why I say, because this is something that's going in our body, and this is something that can help the nation and keep the nation good. Because with that, you can produce sweets with it. You can produce various things, especially for our kids. Because all of that stuff that we're importing from Trinidad and all of these various places, This is what's given our kids ADHD and all of these various other, problems that we can't communicate with them because too much sugar in their system, and we're just allowing them to do what they want. We have to start producing, just like back in the days when we were having our sugar cakes and stuff and asham and all of this stuff that we're having back in the days. We grew up on all of this stuff, and the sugar was even better because we was making our own sugar. But we just importing a set of stuff and we don't really know what's in it. So it's about time we sort of take our time and start producing, making our product for ourselves. And it's going to take a while, but it can be done. You know, it can,
The
especially if you
health
have that
and the health
mindset going
and
to the next step.
economic benefits of growing what we eat and eating what we grow
Hmm.
and bringing
Definitely.
our food import bill down is a challenge that we've been talking about for decades, and it's a conversation
Hmm.
that can't stop. Eventually, we'll get there at some point. Andre, I want to thank you so much for joining me on the narrative to speak about seamoss cultivation,
You're
and
welcome, and I hope I was helpful, man.
you were helpful, and once I try that little package, I will let you know how it tasted. I All I can make with it is a seamoss smoothie. That's what you call them, seamoss smoothie. So I'll try that.
No
And
problem.
the
You have a good day.
salt and the sea salt that's in it, because you leave the sea salt in, and so I mean there's enough for me to cook maybe 3 or 4 dishes using that sea salt. So I make
Yeah, and
pickles and so on.
interestingly as well, yeah, and this is the
Yeah.
reason, one of the reasons why I specifically dry mine and try and retain the salt because I realized that a lot of women, a lot of our women have a lot of thyroid problems. Now that particular salt, it's good for thyroids to help to to strengthen and to help to recover. Who People who do have thyroid problems, it is a way of organically helping, as a part of their diet.
Is it
So it's
the
up to you.
iodine or the sodium or something like that
There
in it?
you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Because there's good salt and there's bad salt. So that sea salt that we're getting from that particular sea moss, it's one of the best salts that you can get for your body. So that's another thing that we have to take into consideration because when I first started doing it and people saw the salt, they were like, "Whoa, what's that?" I'm trying to explain to them that it's up to you. If you don't have a problem with thyroid, if you don't have that particular issue, shake it out. Give it a little rinse, and then you use it accordingly to how you want to use it. But for people who do have those problems, it's definitely beneficial for them. So that's another good, tip that they can use.
Wonderful. So, all right, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining me on the narrative, and we look forward to getting an update from you in the future on how it's all going. Thank you so very much.
Definitely. You have a good day. Thank you.
You too. This is The Narrative. I'm your storyteller, Callistra Farrier, speaking there with Andre Thomas, who is a seamoss cultivator in Grenada. He's trying to take it up a notch and deal with the strengthening of the value chain and not just selling some seamoss to make a drink, but getting more benefits out of it, and a very scientific approach to his methods of drying and of cultivating and drying and consumption. More when we come back.